Hello, dear students. Welcome back to e-classes of P.N.AMERSEY High School. In this video, let's continue our next topic of statistics of chapter 1, that is sources of secondary data. We have studied about the meaning of secondary data. When the data has been collected by others and used by investigator, then it is known as secondary data. And there are two types of sources of secondary data. First, published data. Second, unpublished data. Published data means that data is being published in journals, periodicals, or some books, newspapers. So that is called published data. Unpublished data means the data that is not published in any of the journals, periodicals, books, or any kind of source. So there are two types of sources of secondary data. First is published data and second is unpublished data. Let's study published data in detail. First is government publications. So, there are the number of central and state government organizations which collect statistical data and publish it in the interest of public, like CSO, Central Statistical Organization, then NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization, and then ICAR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research. So, from the published data of such government bodies, the information about wholesale price index number, import export, agriculture statistics, results of population census can be obtained. Next is semi-government publications. So semi-government institutes like or organizations like Life Insurance Corporation LIC and state electricity boards publish various types of important data regularly. Next is international publications. United Nations Organization UNO, International Monetary Fund IMF, International Labour Organization that is ILO. These are international organizations. They publish their important data regularly. UNO works for international peace and security and also works for developing friendly relations among nations. So they publish their important data related to their work. IMF works for securing financial stability around the world. It also works for international trade. It promotes high employment and sustains economic growth, and it also works on reducing poverty around the world. So, IMF published their important data, their achievements, and everything related to their work. Next is ILO. It works for employees and workers and maintain their standards. So they publish their own important data regularly. So these were international publications. Next is reports of research organization. Ahemdabad Textile Industry Research Associations, ATIRA, Physical Research Laboratory, PRL, Ahemdabad Salt and Marine Research Laboratory, Bhavnagar Institute of Economic Growth. So, these are some of the institutes that provide their data in their publications. Next is local institutions, local self-government institutions and educational institutions, municipal corporations, Jilla Panchayat and agriculture universities publish their annual reports. So these all are the local institutions, municipal corporations, Jilla Panchayat, agriculture universities. They all publish their data annually. Next is publication of Business and Commerce Organization. Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry publish their journal like economic trends. So in such journal they present about economic growth, and Institute of Chartered Accountant published their journal called The Chartered Account, and the Institute of Foreign Trade published their journal called Foreign Trade Review, where they present the data about the trade between two countries, trade between foreign countries. Next is newspapers and periodicals. Newspapers and periodicals are considered important source of secondary data. So, the data regarding economic, commerce, business, sports is published in newspapers, and periodicals like Political and Economical Weekly, Business Today, Financial Express. So, these were the newspapers and periodicals. So, we studied about 7 published data, and now let's understand about unpublished sources. Unpublished data. Some statistical data may not be published, but such data can be available on request from internal records of public and private organizations which are prepared for their own references. That means such kind of data is not published, but yes, we can get such kind of information, that too on request from their internal records which were made for their references. Like public and private organization, they maintain their personal records, so from their references we can get the information if we want, like salary of employees if we want to know, or the length of service, that means their working hours, or their educational level. So all these data is not published, but we can get the information from the internal records of public and private organization. Now, let's have a look on precautions while using secondary data. So, first is it should be verified before using. That means secondary data should be checked before using it, because it may have inadequate sample size or may not be suitable with the purpose of inquiry. So, it should be checked that who has collected the data and from where the data is collected. If the data is collected by private organization, it may be less reliable, as private organizations collect data according to their own ideology. Second, the purpose of collecting data must be relevant to the purpose of study. That means whatever inquiry or whatever information you need or investigator need, data should be related to that, otherwise the data will be of no use. Third, the collected data must not be too old. That means it should be relevant with current time period. For example, price of grains, gold, petrol, etc. Fourth point, before using the secondary data, the matter regarding scope of data, region for which data is collected should be ascertained. That means what is the scope of the data, or for which region the data was collected. All such things should be considered or kept in mind before using it. Fifth point, direct use of estimated data should be avoided, because the estimates given in the data may be wrongly calculated, as it is totally on assumptions. Sixth, the method of collection of data should be known, so that investigator should be familiar with its advantages and disadvantages. So, what is the method used when the data was collected, so that investigators should know the advantages and disadvantages of the method. To get the proper benefits of secondary data, it should be used with above all the precautions. So here we have completed the chapter, and go through the chapter, revise it thoroughly. Thank you.